my point here is this. Every one of you that are out there that are going through some tough times, some hard times, that are struggling, that don't feel like you can keep the pace much longer, that it's caving in on you, the air conditioner just broke and you already don't have any money to buy groceries this week, or whatever it is, let me tell you something. Get your priorities straight and know why you're here is to serve other people, like Dave just said, and before you know it, somebody's going to pick you up and help you and be there. Don't kick yourself too hard. Just be patient. It took me 5 years to get to where I can do this message on this radio show. And this week, on Wednesday, I'm driving to Wise, Virginia, and I'm going to spend some time with Don Green, the executive director of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, to talk about more of my involvement with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And in the middle of July, I'm going to be driving to Oklahoma, and I'm going to go to a couple prisons throughout the country, just giving people some love and encouragement and hope as I speak to people in prisons. It takes a long time to succeed in your journey. And I just want to encourage everybody, if you do the kind of things that Dave and I are talking about, if you take responsibility for yourself and you do everything with quality, excellence, take pride in what you're doing, you're going to end up succeeding. And that's the bottom line. You will succeed, and you will eventually have what I think is everybody's ultimate goal, or should be. You should be at peace with yourself. And that, but if you serve others, you will eventually be at peace with yourself. And all the things in the world that are out there that are pinging on you all the time, trying to tear you down, those should not be your main priority. Just don't give up. So, Dave, I just gave you a little bit to respond to there. What do you think?
I completely agree. A couple of people pop into my head with this whole notion of life is a journey. It really is. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And at least in my case and in people that I see who, like you, I mean, you have a long-term vision of where you're trying to get to, but you're willing to get started and realizing it's take a long time, and you'll do whatever it takes to get there. And I see that, so people keep the vision in mind. They want to own their own automotive, repair shop. And today where they are is they don't know how to do automotive repair. They have no shop, and they have no skills. But they have a vision. And they're saying, I'm going to work for the next 10, 15, 20 years towards that vision, and they get started. They go take a job at a pumping gas, or they go they go volunteer their time to, do inventory at an automotive parts store. They just get started on something that's in the basic ballpark, believing that if they do a good job and they show up and they work hard and they put other people first and they treat customers well and they show up at all the bad times of day that no one else wants to do the work, that they will get ahead. They will move ahead. And while they're doing that, they're reading everything they can about owning their own automotive repair shop. That's what they're doing. They're not working one job. They're working 40 hours a week to make some money, and then they're working another 20 hours or 30 hours trying to get better than the next guy. And they're busy. And while they're doing that, they're trying to figure out how to, spend time with their kids, and they're going to bed every night beat tired and feeling good because they're moving ahead because they have a vision in mind. So I see people that have got nice companies as painters that are doing this. The Jose, who was a guy that does some yard work for us. I do some of the yard work too. I actually like mowing the lawn, but there's big pieces that I can't do. I don't have the equipment. And here's a guy who's an immigrant, and he's probably halfway on his journey to having a really nice company. The halfway being he's got an old pickup truck, so it seems to run, and it does run. But he's got a nice trailer that he's pulling, and he's got a riding mower that has a big swath of area he can cut at once that I don't have. He's got a nice weed whacker. He's got clients up and down our road, and he didn't get there overnight. He's probably been doing this for 10 years, figuring out how he can, save money. And the way he met us is he came and volunteered to do some work. I think he saw a tree down or something and came to my wife and said, "Hey, I do good work. Would you let me cut the tree and I'll do it cheaper than anybody else?" And that's how he got his foot in the door. And now we use him a little bit more, and so that's what he's doing. He's going the extra yard on his path towards having what'll probably be employing many other people. Right now, it looks like his sons work for him, and so go ahead. Sorry.
So Dave, I took some notes on what you're saying about Jose and so forth, and you said that he kind of goes that extra mile and so forth. So if we're still talking about quality is a key point of success, and quality has a lot of things that make it up. One of the expressions that people always say is, "Now that's a real quality person." I want you to have friends that are quality people that are making something of their lives, things of that nature. One of the attributes of quality, I'm using the word attribute instead of the word quality again, because if I say one of the qualities of quality, so one of the characteristics or the attributes of what quality means in a person, Jose has demonstrated to you dependability. You use him because when you hire him, he shows up when he's supposed to, and he does what he's supposed to, and he does it really, really good. And so you told me just now and told all the listeners that Jose is very dependable without using that word.
Correct. And I think you touched on it earlier, something along these lines earlier, Steve, which is in any job, there is a degree of technical mastery you need. Whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, a carpenter, whatever, that you need to know these, technical abilities, and you can learn. If you don't know them now, you can learn them over time. That's actually generally, and those are attributes of quality. The technical means to do something. That's usually not what gets you ahead. Those are, quote, the ante. You have to have those to even be considered. What gets you ahead are the kind of attributes that Steve's talking about. Their dependability. You show up. You do the extra thing. Instead of just walking away and seeing all this stuff lying around, you pick them up. No, it maybe wasn't even in your job description, but you did it. So anybody has the technical mastery in many cases to compete for a job or in the workplace, and if you don't have them, you spend 20 years trying to get more and more technical skills. Those just get you considered. Why the people that are successful have these other attributes. They're the soft skills. They smile. They treat people well. I mean, it sounds so trite and so simple, and yet it's true.
So, Dave, you just introduced a word that I want to pick up on, the ante. So if you want to do something, you've got to invest something. That's the same thing that I said at the beginning of the show, where I was trying to tell the people at Redevelopment and Housing in Newport News that you have to make an investment if you want to succeed. You can't just be a passive person that's sitting around waiting for it to fall into your lap. Hey, I don't play the lottery. I don't want Virginia to know that because I don't support the lottery system here. But you don't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket. And so in life, nothing's for free. And so if you are willing to make an investment and you're living a life toward quality, where you take the time to read and become educated on what quality means, and you start to believe that, you know what, people that are living a life of quality have more opportunities. More people want to interact with them, use them if they're selling them a product or something. But Dave, the ante that you just talked about, you have to put something up, like in a poker game, you have to put something up to get something out. Last week you talked to me about a subject of, I think you called it the ante and the reward. And you said you could talk about that for a long time. We've already started it. Is it called the ante and the reward? What was it called?
Yeah, it's a framework. It's called the antes, and Steve said exactly the right concept is think of If you ever played poker, there's the ante. You got to put the money in at the hand, and then you get to play the hand. So the ante is the minimum to be in the game. And so the second concept are called drivers. What are the drivers? And put your business hat on. So if I'm competing for business to win some business from a client, the antes are what I need to have to show them that to even be considered. The drivers are what the customer is going to probably use to make his decision to use me or to use the other guy. So the drivers are things like dependability and who are references. Do I have customers who say, past customers who say good things? It's what they use to make the decision to choose you over somebody else, to choose me over somebody else. So there's the drivers, what get you in the game. I'm sorry, the antes that get you in the game. You have to have them, what Steve calls investments, which I agree with. Then there's the drivers. Why am I going to be chosen over the next guy? And then finally, the last kind of concept are called reassurances. Antes, drivers, and reassurances. And so the reassurances are, once I've won the job, once Jose got his foot in here and he's doing some work for us, he wants to stay doing work. So these are the reassurances. The reassurances are he comes back every time and he maybe sends us a Christmas note, or he, when the railing that was knocked over by somebody else, he's the guy that picks the railing up and puts it back in place. Never was asked. So these are reassurances that allow you to stay in that customer or client. And the reason that's so important, and Steve talked about this last week, is it's very, very hard and expensive to get customers on a relative basis. Much, much harder to get new customers. Once you have a customer, you want to keep them. You want to do anything you can to not lose them and have to keep paying you. Because it's much, much easier and cheaper to keep a customer than to get one. So again, that's how our business thinks about getting and keeping customers. We ought to keep making more and more investments so we have more and more antes to get in the game, to be considered. Drivers, what can we do to differentiate ourselves relative to others, whether that's a business or you as an employee. You can think about the same way. Your antes are your skill set. And you get them better and better and better, and you'll be considered for more jobs. And then, the drivers are, what the boss is going to consider to hire you over somebody else. It's how good a teammate you are. It's, what you've done in the past, and it's a good resume. And then finally, once you get chosen, you do these things to, stay in the good graces of everybody so that they want you to be on the team later. So that's the framework, Steve, that we think a lot about.
Oh, yeah. So as you talk, I take notes too. Perpetual and relationship and humble are three words that I just wrote down. So let me talk about why I put those three words down in response to what you just talked about. What we're trying to share with people here is it's as much an attitude to how you live your life as anything that we're trying to talk about here. I think that's as simple as we can put it here. If you have an attitude that you're going to care about other people and not just yourself, and you're willing to put hard work in and be properly trained to do whatever it is you do to the best of your ability and get to a level where other people like what you do and are willing to have you do it for them in an employment situation or selling them a product as your customer, I want you to remember one thing. In the early stages of working for yourself, and working for yourself may also be an employee somewhere, but you're self-directing your life, where you've taken responsibility and you choose to work for other people because it just works out better that way. They're paying you, you get a stable paycheck, and as long as you're a quality person and do a quality performance for them, you should have job security. So there's earlier shows that I've done that talk about the attitude of thinking like an owner. Last time Dave was on the show, he talked about Nelson Mandela. And he wasn't even going to talk about Nelson. He was going to talk about Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee from the Civil War. But when I made the comment that we have to learn to think like a free person